Please.
Kiitos, Dejan. Joo, mukava olla täällä. Joo, hyvän näköinen yleisö.
Yes.
Eikö?
Joo, mutta Leena, meidän olisi paras aloittaa 10 minuuttia.
Ai niin. Should we speak English, you think?
Do you think so?
They kind of look puzzled. Maybe they don't understand us.
They don't, Leena, they don't. We have
But
to...
I like to speak Finnish because it's my mother tongue. And I would be much better in Finnish. Okay, let's move on. Let's assume English anyway.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Okay, so as we heard, we are going to talk about language use in international internal communication. And English or local language, or then if English, what English? That's
and we
the
just
topic.
chose to use English today, right? Not our local one.
Yep.
Okay, and we come from a unit of international business communication. We call it international business communication. It's actually corporate communication or public relations, but in an international setting, in a business setting. That's where we come from.
From a business school.
Okay.
I mean, that's important.
That's important. Oh, sorry, no.
Oh, the next slide?
No, not ends. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we'll briefly motivate the paper. I mean, the paper is long and a bit different from this 10-minute presentation, as all of you know. We'll mostly here concentrate on the concept of language and how we define it and what ELF and BELF mean to us. And then we'll discuss the issue. We'll briefly introduce a case study too, but there's more about the studies in the paper.
Okay, and does any of you know what ELF is? What we mean by ELF? English as a lingua franca. That's what it is.
Okay. Motivation for us comes from you all know this, from the globalization recently taking place and these new corporate structures that have changed the business world to go across borders increasingly all the time. And at the same time, there's this rising significance of communication in general that we also know about, and especially internal communication. And this internal communication has become international internal communication. And in that context, we haven't really seen much about language. Language has been taken for granted. And it was, of course, okay to take it for granted as long as it was within one language community. Internal communication within Finland, okay. Not so much to do with language, but now it isn't anymore.
Yeah, as soon as our companies go international, they need to make decisions about the language they use within the company and within the separate units and affiliates and subsidiaries.
All right.
Okay.
So this is an area that we've been interested in for some more than 10 years. And we've done also serious study on it that we don't have time to much.
But Leena, on the other hand, everything we're going to talk about is somehow about the studies that we've done over these past 10 years.
Right.
And in addition to that, we are going to present one specific case study related to these issues.
All right. So recently, maybe 10 years or so, there has been in linguistics and applied linguistics, there's been research on this ELF business, English as a lingua franca, in different domains, academic domains, other domains, concentrating on the question, what is the language that these people, these Finns and Swedes and Slovenians and Canadians and Swiss are using when they talk and write to each other, when they communicate?
However, we felt it was around 2005 that something was missing from this discussion, because we come from a business school and we were looking at it from the business perspective. And we felt that these people who are business people, they share something. They've got this shared purpose of doing business and the shared domain of use that is international business, where they use English.
So it was kind of more specific. It was not only English as a lingua franca, but it was more specific somehow, the language that they were using. So we coined this, another acronym, BELF, to describe ELF in a business context.
And what's relevant there is that there is this language of English, that's the core, of course. In addition, of course, as we all know now in this community, BELF or ELF as well is inherently multicultural. We have different mother tongues, we come from different ethnic backgrounds, national backgrounds and so forth. And we've got our own discourse practices that are now reflected in our English, for example, now that we are talking here.
And here, the shared purpose and domain of use is internal communication. So we have that kind of purpose for the 2 days, and we make efforts to understand each other. Right.
Yeah, and in addition to that, when we are using English, which is not our mother tongue, we are kind of on an equal footing. It doesn't matter if our proficiencies are different, because we share this experience of a foreign language and using a foreign language for our communication purposes.
Okay, so we thought maybe we need to have a concrete example, or 2 examples we have of BELF. What we mean by BELF?
Very briefly.
So, very briefly.
2 examples. The first one is from an email message between Finns and Swedes. A Finn sending a message to a Swede. And there's this controller to his team members, check figures by deadline. As you see, the core is English, the language is English, but it's not grammatically correct. It doesn't necessarily follow the discourse practices of the English language.
It doesn't sound like a very polite English request.
However, in its context of use in business, it's polite enough, because these people were quite happy. We asked about their opinions about these email messages. They were happy with it, no problem. The team members knew exactly what to do, what the figures were that should be checked, and what the deadline was that should be met, as it were.
So nothing to be worried. No need to say, would you please, would you be so kind, or use the articles that are missing. The other one is from a meeting between Finns and Swedes again. We had a big project between Finns and Swedes using English. And
our Swedish colleagues.
Yeah. This was a longer story in our publication 05, you can read more. But here a Swede is saying or asking a Finn, Pertti, this is the Finn, Pertti is the Finn. Pertti, could you do this part for next time? And Pertti says, yes. And the Swede is not quite sure if he will or he will not. And then the Swede continues, I mean, is it really possible? Do you think you could? And it goes on. And what we want to show with this is the fact that in these multicultural, multilingual situations, or with multilingual backgrounds, we bring our own conventions, discourse conventions to the situation. So in a Finnish conversation, saying simply, yeah,
that's
yes,
enough.
That's enough. But for the more discursive, maybe type Swedish person, it was not enough. She wanted more. And I think the Swedish convention is closer to the native English convention as well, who would say, yes, I will, at least, or something else. Okay?
And that's about BELF competence. As you can see, it's regarded as an integral part of professional competence. Based on our research, our interviews with business professionals, a major survey we did a couple of years ago, that's definitely their message. It's part of their professional competence. In addition, it includes context-specific genre knowledge, no rules as such for correct usage. Grammar, not important.
Or maybe
not
wrong to say no rules, but the rules are very situation specific. Whatever the situation demands, that's important.
Yeah, and then flexibility and accommodation skills are essential.
As we know, English has been chosen as the corporate language for most organizations, for many organizations worldwide. But what it really means that it is an official language or corporate language that is interpreted in different ways. Sometimes it's defined as our language in this organization. Sometimes it's the reporting language. Sometimes it's simply a practical solution, ad hoc solution. This is briefly a case study that one of our students actually conducted in an NGO with 4 official languages. This is a huge organization operating throughout the world with 4 languages.
And in practice, English and local languages were used, and actually English proficiency was rewarded in spite of the fact that 4 languages were as official languages, and practices of language use were very ambiguous. There were no explicit rules or kind of conventions what language to use where.
So it was actually more confusing that it was stated that they have 4 official languages than leaving it without that statement, just being ad hoc, or addressing the issue really properly.
So they had really good intentions, but it didn't really work out.
Okay, so finally, so what? We think that, first of all, most importantly perhaps for this audience or for internal communicators, the language issue should be addressed. It should not be taken for granted. It should be explicitly dealt with.
And BELF is here to stay.
What are the implications of BELF usage then? First of all, we have to understand that it is English, okay, it's English, but it's a different type of English in every situation.
And we would also like to encourage parallel language use. You know, if you are more competent in German when talking with an English person, maybe one of you could speak German and the other one English, and you still understand each other. And then finally, we would strongly promote the idea of training. BELF training for native speakers of English, BELF training for us non-native speakers of English.
Thank you.
Okay, Leena, that's it.
Thank you.